Hello, I'm Sister Vasa, and welcome back to our award-winning show, live from Vienna in Austria. Things have quieted down here this week since the World Cup has ended, although rumors do persist about Anka, our Polish set designer, and her English teacher, Dr. Silkworth. A couple of days ago, he gave her a very expensive diamond bracelet. In fact, it's not the first very expensive gift he's given her recently. They say that, actually, he comes from a very wealthy family in England. But, Emilios thinks that there's something fishy about Dr. Silkworth, that he might be some kind of a con man. In any event, as you can see, I'm drinking from 2 mugs today. I'll be drinking my coffee from our world-famous Coffee with Sister Vasa mug that many of you also already have. And if you don't have one of these mugs yet, please order one, support our show. You can find where to order the mugs at this website, the address of which we're showing here. And I have this second mug from which I'm drinking water. This is from the Assumption Church in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. I don't know if you can see the picture on the mug, but I spoke at this Assumption Church in Rhode Island, and the mug was given to me by a friend of mine, the priest, the Greek Orthodox priest at this church, Father Philip Zimaris. So I thank that parish for welcoming me, and yes, I'm drinking water, mainly because my personal trainer, Edeltraut, told me I really have to drink lots more water. Today we will take a look at Saint Macrina, who is one of the greatest female saints of the Christian East. She happened to be the eldest sister of the famous church fathers Basil the Great and Gregory of Nyssa, and she is commemorated in the church calendar on July 19th. Saint Macrina was born sometime in the 320s to a wealthy family in Caesarea in Cappadocia, an area in the central part of today's Turkey. Her parents, Basil the Elder and Emilia, had 10 children, and the eldest, their first child, was Macrina. She was actually named Thecla at birth, but everyone knew her as Macrina.
And she called herself Lil, but everyone knew her as Nancy.
Comedians. The name Macrina means she who grows, and indeed Saint Macrina occupied herself from a very young age with her spiritual growth. We know about her life because one of her brothers, Gregory of Nyssa, dedicated an entire book to it, his Life of Saint Macrina. Gregory writes that Macrina's mother was responsible for her education and taught her daughter the scriptures, particularly the Psalms and the wisdom of Solomon. As Gregory writes, when she rose from bed or engaged in household duties or rested or partook of food or retired from table, when she went to bed or rose in the night for prayer, the Psalter was her constant companion, like a good fellow traveler that never deserted her. As a young woman, Macrina was exceptionally beautiful, and Gregory writes that a great swarm of suitors seeking her in marriage crowded round her parents. Her father arranged for her to marry a very accomplished young man who was famous for public speaking, and the two were betrothed. But the young man died before the marriage, and Macrina decided to remain single from then on, saying that she will remain loyal to the one to whom she was betrothed. Macrina's father died soon after his wife, Emilia, gave birth to their 10th child, and after that, Macrina dedicated herself to caring for her mother. She helped her raise the younger children and to manage the family's many properties. After Macrina's 4 sisters were married, and the 5 brothers left the house to pursue their careers, and the family's wealth had been divided among the siblings, Macrina donated her own share of the inheritance to the local church. And from then on, Macrina and her mother dedicated themselves to the ascetical life at the secluded estate of their family in Pontus, which is a region north of Cappadocia in Asia Minor on the southern coast of the Black Sea. They turned the estate into a convent and monastery. Half of it was occupied by monks and the other half by nuns. Macrina's community of nuns embraced constant prayer and also poverty, sustaining themselves by weaving wool. This was a skill she had learned as a child. Saint Macrina continued to be a support for her mother, particularly when unexpected tragedy struck their family. That is, when one of Macrina's brothers, the very pious and family favorite Navcratius, suddenly died at the age of 26. I should also mention that Saint Macrina exerted a very strong influence on her entire family. When her most famous brother, Basil the Great, returned from his studies in Athens, for example, and as Gregory of Nyssa writes, Basil was all puffed up about his accomplishments, excelling in his own estimation all the men of leading and position, Saint Macrina convinced the young Basil to dedicate his life to asceticism and to abandon a worldly career. We also know how she both admonished and motivated her other brother, Gregory, Bishop of Nyssa, when he would complain to her about his many troubles, including his being exiled by the Emperor Valens. Macrina reminded Gregory of his many blessings and of the necessity to be grateful. She reminded him of his fame and importance in the church, and she said, "Do you not see the grace of God in it all?" Saint Macrina died just 11 months after her beloved brother Basil at the end of the year 379. Saint Macrina's life reminds us of the rewards of solitude, because although she did contribute her love and support to both her family and her community, she also spent a lot of time in solitary conversation with God. This is what made her the grace-filled presence she was among the people with whom she came into contact. In her quiet life, in her stillness, she nurtured and maintained her connection with God and was able to pass on His grace to others. Now, most of us do not live in secluded monasteries, because that's not where God put us. However, we are all called to times of stillness, to our own conversation with Him. As it says in the Psalms, "Be still and know that I am God." But today, we make it extra hard for ourselves to find solitary, still moments because of our attachment to our phones or computers, which keep us constantly connected and accessible to one another. I know I talked about this last week, a little bit, but I am returning to a slightly different aspect of the topic today. Let's remember to slow down and disconnect from our phones for some moments of solitude, at least for some time during the day, for example, for a short while after we wake up in the morning, and connect with God in solitary conversation with Him. Because when we slow down to connect with Him, our connection with Him brings grace into our connection to one another.
Slow down, you crazy child. You're so ambitious for a juvenile.
Well, that's it for today. Saint Macrina, ladies and gentlemen.
So afraid. Where's the fire? What's the hurry about? You better cool it off before you burn it out. You got so much to do and only so many hours in a day. Hey, but you know that when the truth is told that you can